YouTube, this is Shirley426, and today we have the review of another Revoltech figure. This is Revoltech number 6, the Evangelion or EVA Unit 2. Now, I had this figure for a long time. This thing came out on 2006, which I assume is also the same year I bought it at. So, it's been about 13 years since I had this figure. And, yeah, I think I'm ready to review it now. Sorry about that. So, as I mentioned, this was actually one of my first figures I actually have bought, because even up to that point, the only thing I would usually buy was, would be Gunpla at that point, or Zoids, basically a model kit. That would be the stuff I would be buying, but this is the first time that I would ever have bought a actual full-fledged figure that doesn't really require any assembling. So this is the number 6 product. So this is one of the really early product lines from the Revoltech. So there's going to be, if you have a Unit 2 that was out recently, there might be some different aspects regarding that. So keep that in mind. And which means there's also some aspects missing in this figure that we would usually see or get when you buy a recent version. Alright, so let's get on to the review. So first of all, what you get, of course, is the EVA Unit 2 itself. And regarding hands, we have the fist on left and right. And then for equipment, so the first set of equipment, we have 2 guns, first of all. And then we have this cable. This is the power connecting cable for the EVA units, because they have to be connected to power in order to run. And if they disconnect, they can go about, I forgot if it was 5 minutes. Yeah, I think it was 5 minutes. So yeah, and despite just being a cable, this thing actually has a really important purpose regarding this figure. So I'll let you know, or show you guys what I mean by that later. And here we have 2 types of guns, one being a more assault rifle type and one being a more pistol type. So we have this, and it has a silencer for some reason, although the end tip it's pretty just pure blank, so there's no hole. So if you do happen to get this, try to, like, I don't know, maybe poke a hole in there or something like that. And here we have the assault rifle. I think this is like based on the FAMAS or something. But yeah, I think this one looks pretty okay, although I'm not sure where you would put the bullets in this one, but yeah. Okay, and then on the mid section we have some hands. So as I mentioned, on the figure itself, we're currently using 2 fists on left and right. We have the semi-open hands for left and right. And then we have these 2 hands, which are technically trigger finger hands, but these are also basically the hands for all the weapons. Not only the guns, but there are also more other close combat type weapons, and these are the hands that you use to hold them. So we get that left and right, and we have a fully open hand for posing for only the left arm / left hand, so keep that in mind. And then we have a pointing hand for the right hand, so yeah. And then there's 3 more weapons right over here. Okay, so first of all we get the spear. I've recently been watching Evangelion, and I definitely remember this one now. Pretty nice, pretty long length, and the blade looks pretty okay at this point. And then we get an axe, one of the most realistic looking axe I've ever seen in a mecha, as a mecha weapon. Yeah, just pretty much an axe, not too sharp. It's not sharp, so no need to worry. And then finally, it's a portable blade. Now, once again, I'm kind of curious why I believe the EVA Unit 1 had a more combat knife looking thing, but the EVA Unit 2 version is just more like a cutter knife, so I'm not sure why this was a good idea, but yeah. Keep in mind, you only get 1, so you don't get 2. Alright, so let's get on to the review. So we'll go with the articulation. So I would just skip the articulation. If everything was pretty much exactly the same as the mass production type I reviewed, but turns out it's not really that case at this point. Alright, so let's start with the head. So as I mentioned on my mass production type version, now the base structure or format was based on on the early figures, but what they did with the mass production type is that they changed a few joints here and there. So you can basically see this is like the original format of the EVA units for the Revoltech at their early days. I haven't really bought, the only modern one I bought was the Unit 8 beta version, which I will review eventually, but that thing is not as easy to pose as well. Okay, so for the head, now keep in mind this is not the recent movie version, so the head will be based on the original anime version, so there's no orange horns or anything on that. Okay, and this is very old, and I did keep this in the box, but yeah, I guess dust did pile on the figure a little bit. So the head can go down that much, up that much, and if you notice, there's no ratchet noise on it. So this is not a ratchet joint, but this is like these orange joints you see, they're not on a ratchet. They're just typical. Their design is basically like a smaller version of the typical Revoltech joints, but without the ratchet. So smaller version, no ratchet. And it's something that we don't see anymore, I believe, in Revoltech. I could be wrong, but yeah. So, and then since it is on a peg, you should be able to turn 360, but you just need to realize that because of the design, going 360 might be tricky, or you need to move the head around like that. So you have to work your way around. And you only get a single head because I believe, like, I'm not sure when this happens. I'm still a little bit confused, but sometimes, like, the EVA-02 would open up and then would reveal 4 eyes, like the Unit 1 type of eyes, instead of those green ones. But yeah, that head is not included. Okay, and then let's get the back for a while. We have a hole here, which is actually meant for the plug, the cable. So this is what you do, and as I mentioned, the early Revoltech figures are very hard to pose. So, and this one does not have any holes on the feet, which is why you didn't see any stand. And this is where this thing comes in handy. Now, currently I already have it balanced, but sometimes you're going to have trouble balancing the figure. So you use these wires to basically give extra support onto the back, so it doesn't fall to the back. So yeah, this is how it works. This actually I wasn't really aware, but my friend basically taught me this. He's not in the hobby anymore, but yeah, I do really owe him a lot. Okay, so and then let's get the arms now. Now the arms, I believe the shoulders are pretty much the same as the unit, the mass production type, the structure. So we have a typical Revoltech joint here. So depending on where the angle is, you can still move the arm about 90 degrees, or you could go a little bit more. But one thing I should mention, like the shoulder armor is blocking, and the shoulder armor is not, it's not going to come out because I believe it's actually, there's a peg going through the entire shoulder. So yeah, so I'm just going to say it goes about 90 degrees to the side, and then 360 twist is technically possible. Of course, you just need to work your way around. And then the arm, oh boy, and then the arm goes a little bit more than 90 degrees, but still that's more of a 90 degrees thing. But I do like the small details, like the EVA-02, and then like EVA-02 product. Now the only thing I do find odd is that while they did color the hands okay, but the fists seem okay. But the hands, depending on which hand you use, the hands may seem a little bit big. So yeah, and as I mentioned, these do not have any ratchets, so which is why you can see it just folds up without any problem. There's also another joint on the wrist. Now I do believe some reviewers in Korea, like they do reviews on blogs regarding Revoltech figures, and they would sometimes count how many joints there are, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, now let's get the body. The main body. Oh, give me a moment, actually. Oh yeah, so regarding the wrist, so once again, a smaller version of the Revoltech joints, but without the ratchet. So depending on how the angle is, you can move it up and down, or go 360 since it's entirely on a peg. Same goes for the lower arm itself. You can go 360 if you want to do so. Just be careful, or be aware that where the folding point is, or moving point. Now on the main body, there's another Revoltech joint there. But because of the design, this thing does not go back, but you can go forward. Yeah, so almost 90 degrees, but let's say less than 90 degrees. But I don't think you'll be using this kind of pose a lot. There is a beast mode in Revoltech figure, which kind of tempting. Okay, and the legs or the side joints are pretty much the same. We have a spinning point here, and then we have a moving point here. Doesn't go back that much, but yeah. Now, as I mentioned on my last Revoltech figures, that most of the Revoltech figures, or at least the EVA units, they'll have this gloss coating on here. But I'm not sure if this was due to the passing of time, or mine, I just got a defective one. But this other side, the right side, is not coated. That I noticed. I'm not sure if this was like this when I first bought this, because as a kid I never cared. But yeah. And then here on the legs we have another Revoltech joint. So at least the legs itself, the lower leg is connected to a peg, so you can go 360, and then bending it is no problem at all. So yeah, it goes more than 90 degrees. And then I'm gonna fold it back up. Oh boy. And then once again, on the feet, we have this section right over here. So depending on where it is, you can move it up, down, and up. Now the only odd part regarding this is that you can see this armor here that's on the ankles. The armor is connected both to the feet and the leg. So yeah, I'm surprised this thing it has not snapped off a bit, because it seems like it's not on a ball joint, but it's just literally a rubber connection. So one thing I would not suggest is don't try to twist the feet 360. Okay, so we basically seen the articulation of the figure itself. Yeah, as you can see, I'm having trouble now balancing it because I have moved the legs. Now, those who I've noticed, not many people saw the EVA mass production type, which I totally understand because it looks creepy. It's not the best design. It doesn't really look cool to some people. But these Revoltech figures are about the size of a typical 1:144 scale HG kit, based on, of course, Universal Century stuff. But so you can see the height is pretty much the same. Granted, the EVA is doing the legs are kind of on the outsides, but that's pretty much how they are on the figure. So yeah, they're not as big, but I would like to see a really like 1:100 scale, like, or a bigger scale of a Revoltech figure, because that would be interesting. Okay, so we're done with the articulation. I'll be right back with the first set of equipment. Okay, I'm back. Here's like the first thing I wanted to try out with the EVA mass production type and the EVA-02. So currently it's holding the axe. So as I mentioned, they might look like trigger fingers, but they're really meant for just holding every single weapon that's provided in the figure. So, and the way how you're supposed to hold it is just literally you just need to jam the weapon inside the hands, which it works pretty well, but there's also a really downside to this. So I'll point out that later, but currently definitely we can do the chopping off the arm, and I think it looks pretty okay and pretty fun, although I do wish the EVA mass production type now definitely it looks like it's kind of suffering, but because of how it looks like, or the grunt, how it smiles every time, it's really hard to give out that painful look onto it. So currently we have the hand. So what I meant by this is why, and you can see now this is not a really good pose for the figure, because you can see the feet, they're not really holding out that well, but thanks to those cables on the back, this thing is actually holding out very well. So let's see. What I mean by why the jamming the weapon into the hand, while it does work, what I mean by while it does work, but not the best idea, is that if you can, I'm not sure if you can see, but you can see there's already, now the axe itself is supposed to be like grayish silver, but you can see there's some purple on it. So I'm not sure if it's the paint got scraped off, or maybe the paint on the hand got onto the weapon. So these are the type of things that might be a big problem to some people. But yeah, other than that, there you go. You can see the purple right over there. So I think it's the paint that got scratched off. But so yeah. Other than that, it works pretty well. So I'll be right back with the second set of equipment. Okay, I'm back. Here's the second set of equipment. So currently I'm still using the wires to support the figure on the back side. Because once again, it's not really easy to pose with all the stuff going on. But currently what I have is still using the multi-purpose hands for the weapons. Currently on the right hand, I gave it the pistol with the silencer on it. Once again, you just need to just push it into the hand and you're good to go. Although I think, once again, but this is the thing what I was talking about. The hands, to me, or the way how I see it, is that the hands look a little bit too big for the figure. So that's one thing. And then on the other hand, we have the figure. Now this pose, I really don't understand, but basically it was on the back of the box of the figure. So yeah. And one thing, if for some reason, if you do get this old version of the EVA-02, I would like to warn you guys is that if you... So currently I have the combat knife, or the combat cutter knife that's currently it's holding. The way how you're supposed to plug it inside a hand is not the way how you think. So you have to plug it in the other way around. So you can see I'm pulling it back through the handle. because on the knife is that on the bottom section here we have this extra this lump over here, which is why you cannot push the hand inside like this, because while the first tip can go in because of the trigger finger, but it will not go through all the way around. So if you're going to hold it, you have to push it downwards, or depending on how you do it, you have to do it like this. I actually had a friend who bought, I think he had I think it was the Unit 0, the blue one, and I think that also came with this. I'm talking about the old version. And I think one of my friends actually broke this part because he kind of forced it, and yeah. So yeah. Alright, so nothing too special regarding this. And despite how you still jam the weapons inside, the gun and the knife did not have that issue like the axe where the paint got chipped off. So you can see there's no big changes in color as well. I think the same goes for the gun handle. Well, there is a little bit of chipping, but not as bad as the axe. So I'm not sure what's going on, but still. Alright, I'll be right back with the next set of equipment. Okay, I'm back here now. This time on the right hand it's still using the multi-purpose hand, but now I have the spear at the moment. And then this fully open hand, which is only meant for the left arm, is pretty much for this pose. I mean, there's not much use for this hand, so it's pretty interesting that they gave out a hand that's meant for literally one type of pose. But yeah, you can do the basically the most typical pose that you can think of when using a spear. Now I would like to mention that the spear is kind of pretty long, so, and once again you just need to plug it in. It's definitely longer than the actual figure, you can see. Now it's not fragile, it's much more stronger than you think, but just be careful when you're jamming it in there, because when you're doing this the first time you could get nervous and might break it. I haven't heard any people actually breaking the spear yet, but just be careful, because I say this is one of the most, other than the knife, this is actually the next potential thing that one could actually break. Once again, only for the lower side I have the paint kind of scratched off, but the other side seems pretty clean at this point, so yeah. Okay, we're almost done. Now I'll be right back with the assault rifle, because that one actually also is pretty interesting. Okay, I'm here with the last set of equipment. So currently I have the assault rifle / FAMAS looking machine gun. And so as mentioned, this is also still using the multi-purpose hand or the trigger finger. Once again, all you need to slide it in. And then on the other hand, we have the semi-open hand. So this is mostly the main use for the semi-open hand, is to do the support grip, or basically make it look like it's holding up the front section of the gun. So, and this actually does look very natural to the point where, like, makes me think that when they were designing the hands, or the Revoltech design team, they were really considerate. Regarding these kind of making it look natural as much as possible. So when I was a kid, it was really hard for me to actually do this pose, because number one, the gun would not go inside the hand on mine, because I've noticed that it has to go. It does go in, but it goes smoothly at a more on a more certain angle. But once you get the figure, you kind of know what I mean. And then number two, I wasn't really used to such assault rifles, because I wasn't really used to posing with these kind of rifles where it had a fat stock on the back section right over here. So I wasn't really sure how to pose with it. But now, after like reviewing Gunpla and all sorts of stuff, I kind of get the idea now. And I forgot to mention, these shoulder flaps do move around, but not as much as. So once again, if you want to reposition them, you are able to do so. And that's pretty much it for the review. Now, the only thing I haven't showed is the other section of the semi-open hand. So basically, if you want to hold the gun on the left hand and then support with the right arm, that is possible as well. And then the pointing finger. Now, I'm not here to demonstrate how to pose. I'm basically just showing you guys what you can do with the figure most of the time. So sometimes I will just miss out a few detailed parts, but that's really up to you, because everything is based on your imagination. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was Revoltech number 6, the Evangelion or EVA Unit 2 figure from Revoltech. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time!